passages of Psalms that deals with the gatekeeper. The 24th division of Psalms deals with the gatekeeper. 24th division of Psalms, you can turn there with me. We're going to go through them verse by verse. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. For he's founded upon the seas and established it upon the floods. Who shall ascend into the hills of the Lord, or who shall stand in his holy place? He that has clean hands and a pure heart, who hath not lifted up his soul unto vanity, nor sworn deceitfully. He shall receive the blessing from the Lord and the righteousness from the God of his salvation. This is the generation of them that seek him, that seek thy face, O Jacob. Lift up your heads, O ye gates, and even be lifted up everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, O ye gates, even lift them up everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Just for a moment today, the gatekeeper, the gatekeeper, the gatekeeper. Have you seen? God assigns pastors over congregations in different locations. And if we're not careful, we'll believe that we found the church. And in reality, God placed you here. And the gatekeeper is whom God has set over the church to make sure that those who come in and those who go out are permitted by him. There are people who actually leave churches, and if they're not careful, they'll think that they're leaving on their own regards. And the truth of the matter is, God has escorted them to another location. Individuals will come and be a part of your congregation, and they'll think that they found you, when in reality, God led them to you. And he has a gatekeeper to watch over them. And so this particular Psalms, the Psalms 24, is a Psalms that the Israelites would say and would sing as they would go into Jerusalem, as they would go in for worship, as they would go in for offering. And one of the things that they would do is they would sing, and it was a two-part song, whereby one would sing one portion of it, and the other would sing another portion of that Psalms. And so the gatekeeper, to make sure that the person that was coming into Jerusalem, into the synagogue, into the temple, he would make sure that those individuals were sent by God and a part of God's people. He would give them the first verse. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. And see, if he was a part of the congregation and knew the song, the person who was coming could go to verse number 2. But if the person who was coming couldn't go to verse number 2, he couldn't authenticate that which the verse number 1 had said, the gatekeeper had said he couldn't come in. And so part of being authenticating, you have to make sure that you can authenticate that which the person who said before, you say what you need to say, and they'll have to reply with what they need to say. To authenticate means to prove, to serve, to be true, to be real, genuine. In other words, when you authenticate, that what they're saying to you is that you are supposed to be here. See, the problem with a whole lot of church folk that go to church, they feel like they should be a part of the church, but they haven't authenticated through Jesus Christ as being a part of the fellowship. So therefore, when the verse is said, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein, they can't go to, for he's founded upon the seas. Because that's how you authenticate. And so what happened is the gatekeeper, when they couldn't authenticate, they couldn't come in. There are certain things inside of the local assembly that cannot come in. Is that you're leaders of Mount Moriah. You're not leaders anywhere else. You're invited in. You don't take responsibility and you don't take authority someplace else simply because, you watch this, you're a part of this location. And if someone invites you to be a part of their service, it's because they invited you to be a part. But you're not just a part because you're a part of the Mount Moriah Missionary Baptist Church. You're a part because they invited you in, because there's a gatekeeper there. See, the problem with most folk is, and the pastor started to hit into my message, is that they don't have the same spirit as the pastor. And so therefore, Moses, they're in Numbers. When he began to talk to God, he was actually asking God, look here, take me out. These people in which I'm leading are too difficult. Take me out. I didn't birth them. They're not mine. Take me out. And what God was letting them know was, go get 70 of those individuals. 70 of those individuals of leaders of their families, leaders of their tribes, and bring them to the gate of the door of the tent. And I'm going to give them the same spirit that you have. See, the thing that we need to understand is that the church operates under the same spirit as the gatekeeper. But the problem is there are so many folk that want to lead themselves until they won't follow the gatekeeper. The 11th chapter of Numbers deals with Moses dealing with people and situations where they were mumbling and they were talking, and all the things that was going on was bothering, and in other words, was getting on his last nerve. But Moses had already, I want you to understand, sent out some spies. 12 of them. And when he sent out the 12 spies, 2 of them came back with a good report. 10 of them came back with a different report. 2 of them had the spirit that Moses had. 10 of them had the spirit that wasn't of God. And so what God did was, God took those same individuals and caused them to go back into the wilderness, and the earth opened up and swallowed up those individuals because they were disobedient unto God. See, I want you to understand, there was 2. There was Caleb and Joshua. And so Caleb, I don't know whether you know it or not, means dog. And so the dog and Joshua decided that they were going to, good God Almighty, it don't matter how big they are. It don't matter how strong they are. It doesn't matter how numerous they are. We can take them, and we can take them right now. See, the problem that we have is that we don't have the right kind of dogs. See, the thing that we have to understand is you may not be that kind of dog. You may not be a dog that giving tithes and offering. You just not that kind of dog. You may not be a kind of dog. Y'all ain't hear what I'm saying. That was giving praise. You may not be that kind of dog. You may not be the kind of dog that'll go visit the sick. This just might not be your church. You may not be the kind of dog. Woo! It just may not be in your nature to be able to take them when everything looks strong. You may not be that kind of dog that will stand when there's only a few people standing. You may not be that kind of dog that'll hang on in there when everybody else want to cut loose and let go. But Caleb, y'all ain't hear what I'm saying, was that kind of dog. And what he told him was, we can take him. And you see, therefore, so when Caleb began to speak, I would understand, and Joshua began to speak, he began to let them know that we can do it even though we may look like grasshoppers to them. We can still take them. Even though they may be more numerous than us, we can still take them. So therefore, what he was saying is he's founded upon the seas. He's established upon the floods. In other words, my God can handle it all. The gatekeeper said, who shall ascend into the hills of the Lord? Or who shall stand in his holy place? He said, authenticate. Here's what the authenticator said. He that has clean hands and a pure heart, who has not lifted up his soul unto vanity, nor sworn deceitfully. What the gatekeeper said, he shall receive the blessings from the Lord and the righteousness from the God of his salvation. See, what he was saying was that we're on the same page. We can do this thing together. Yeah. See, Moses was letting them know that, watch this, even though they're more numerous than us, watch this, they're stronger than us, they're bigger than us, watch this, we can still take them. According to, in other words, watch this. Corona came in and thinned all churches out. Corona came in and made all folk that wanted to get off and thought about getting off. Corona came in and made people satisfied with having church on a television screen. Corona came in and made people happy that they didn't have to give. Well, you may not be that kind of dog that'll hang on in there. You may not be that kind of dog that'll stay there even though things are rough. You may, good God Almighty, you just might not be that kind of dog. I'm going to get there. The authenticator will reply, this is the generation. Us. We can do it. This is the generation of them that seek him, that seek thy face, O Jacob. In other words, I'm here with you, and I'm joining myself to you, and I'm a part of who you are. And therefore, if God be on your side, he's more than the whole world against you. And so therefore, I would understand, I want some Caleb's in my camp. I need some folk, good God Almighty. See, there's some folk got some dogs, but there's some, all dogs ain't biting dogs. Some dogs just lap dogs. Some dogs just like to lay around. I need some dogs that's aggressive. That's go, good God Almighty. I shouldn't have to deal with, I heard the pastor say that there are going to be some leaders that's going to come up out of this. I heard the pastor say there are going to be some changes that come up out of this. And somebody's sitting there thinking he's going to be gone too long. 3 months is way too much. You may not be that kind of dog. You may not be able to stay there and stand when all things are going on. Pre-sample. Well, if I was at Mount Moriah, I'd preach this a little different. I'm giving them the light version of it. The gatekeeper would say, lift up your heads, O ye gates. Even lift them up everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. What he was letting them know is, just watch it. No matter how oppressed you may have been, no matter how bad your situations of life may have become, Corona may have left you broke, busted, and disgusted, but lift up your heads, O ye gates. You may have lost some loved ones, you may have lost some friends, but lift up your heads, O ye gates. Even lift them up everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. I come to tell you what God is saying to us today is he need a few folk that don't mind following the gatekeeper. Okay. The authenticator would turn back around and says, because they don't always understand, they say, who is this King of glory? And then they answer their own question. The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. In other words, what they were saying was, I knew him and I know him also. I know he's the one that gives me water. I know he's the one that gives me bread. I know he's the one that brought me across the Red Sea. I know he's the one that fought all the Amalekites and all those Canaanites. I know he's the one. And so therefore, I want to capture a little bit of Judges. Because the 7th chapter of Judges deal with a totally different set of dogs. The 7th chapter of Judges deals with those individuals that, that was going into battle. As they were going into battle, these particular individuals were going into battle, but they had doubt in their hearts. They started out 32,000 of them, but they were going against over 100,000 of enemies, and they were going into battle, and their leader was Gideon, and Gideon didn't have all the nerve that he needed, and so therefore God had to strengthen him as he strengthened them. And what God told Gideon, if I let you go in with 32,000 folk, your folk and you gonna think that you got the battle all by yourself, and so I'm gonna thin you out. Here's what I want you to do: whisper in some of them's ear that if they're afraid, just go home. God Almighty, Corona came and whispered in some of them's ear and told them, if you're afraid, just go on home. And what they did was, they tell me that over 20,000 went home. Wow. Wow. They started out with 32,000. 22,000 of them went home because of fear. There's some folk in every single church that will watch. The church is going to look different from this point on. There's some folk in every single church. There were folks on the praise team. They don't want to come to church. There were folk that was on the deacon board. They don't want to come to church. There were folk that were sitting on the pews. They don't want to come to church. There were folk that were serving in the culinary committee. They don't want to come to church. And so therefore, what the whisper was, if you're afraid, just go home. And 22,000 went home. God did another survey. And what God said was, you still got too many. I'm just trying to help you out, because the gatekeeper got to follow God as well. And the gatekeeper's following God. Now watch this. I know if I had 32,000 members and watch this, and 22,000 of them left, Pastor Whitaker, I'd be kind of serious. I'd be thinking something real wrong. But what God said was, I've looked at your situation. I've studied all the individuals, and you still got too many. I want you to understand. You need to encourage some of those individuals to leave, because now you got 10,000, and that's still too many. Too many folk to go and conquer over 100,000 enemies. Now, to me, 10,000, 130,000. That's some pretty bad odds. That's some pretty bad odds. But not when you following God. And so what has to happen is the gatekeeper has to follow God. Who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty. And so why y'all ain't what I'm saying? And so what God did was, God began to let them know. I said, you got 10,000 folk. And now I want you to do, I'm going to weed some of them out for you. Now, when I be thinking God going to weed somebody out, I'm thinking God going to touch about 3 or 4 folk. When I think God gonna weed somebody out, I'm thinking he may, okay, out of 10,000, he may take 50 of them away. After all, I had 32,000. 22,000 already left. Now I'm down to 10,000. God said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take them down to the water, all 10,000 of them. And I'm going to weed out those individuals. I've already given you an opportunity to weed them out. I've already given them an opportunity to quit. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take them down to the water. And all of those individuals who lap like a dog, dip the water up and still watch. Dip the water up and still on watch. Dip the water up and still on post. Dip the water up and still watching who's coming in. Dip the water and still watch the door. Dip the water and still hold your head up high. I'm going to keep the ones who lap like a dog. You just might not be that kind of dog. There's certain things in church that you won't do. There's certain things in church that you say is not called for. But God is saying, I want you to lap like a dog. And they got down to 300 people. Woo! The reason why your bank account runs low and you kept on working, you worked all the way through Corona, and you kept on doing, you kept your job, you kept on working, and things kept on getting less and less and less. And watch this. And what God was saying to you is, you need to learn how to lean and depend on me. You, watch this. Most folk would look at a situation and they wouldn't think about going on a sabbatical when the churches are already thin. They wouldn't think about leaving the building when folk already won't have come to church. But God is saying, trust me. If you trust me, I'll provide for you. I got doors that I'm going to open that no man can open. I got doors that I can shut that no man can shut. I'm going to give you a promotion. And when I put you up on high, can't nobody bring you down. Yeah. And he took them with 300 people. Didn't give them no arrows, didn't give them no swords, but gave them lamps and a horn. Lamps and a horn. You may not be that kind of dog. You may not be the kind of dog that trusts God on your little bit. You may not be that kind of dog that trusts God even on your bad day. You may not be that kind of dog that trusts God no matter what. Watch this. So the authenticator says, who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty. The Lord mighty in battle. The Gatekeeper says, look, I know you traveled a long way. I know you've had a hard time. I know you've been through much. I know you had some letdowns. I know you had times when you wanted to give up. I know you had times when other folk quit. But here's what I want you to do. Lift up your heads, O ye gates, and even lift them up everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. And he authenticated. The passenger did. Here's what he asked. Who is this King of glory? The Lord of hosts. He is the King of glory. I have to ask you the way, church, what kind of dog are you? Are you still going to be here when your pastor come back? What kind of dog are you? When things get rough, the ways get hard to climb, are you still going to hang in here? Because see, the thing what God wants you to do is God wants you to follow the word. Don't get caught up on following the man. So many times we get caught up on following the word, the man, and don't follow the word. So if you're following the man, you'll stop when the man stops. But if you're following the word, it's the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. The word don't change.